Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Adam Draws Stuff. I'm Adam and I draw stuff, and today I'm going to show you how to draw hair. And actually in this tutorial I'm not just going to show you how to draw hair, but I'm also going to show you how not to draw hair and why the way that most people do it is wrong and the proper way to do it right so that you can make sure that you don't get flat, lifeless hair that just really isn't very believable. So we've got back-to-back two different outlines here. One, I'm going to show you first the wrong way to do it, or the way that most people would probably do it if they really didn't know what they were doing exactly. And then on the other side, I'm going to show you how to do it the right way, and what makes them different, and what exactly makes one method look realistic and one method look fake. So as you can see here, I have my two outlines, and the reason that I did these off camera real quick is because the outlines of the hair is actually the smallest part of the whole process. You could have dozens of different hairstyles, and so really the outline isn't that important. For this particular one, I'm just going to do a ponytail because it has a few different kinds of hair in it and a few different shapes in there, so I can show you different things. But even though the hairstyles might be different, or what you want to do, the hairstyle might be different, the actual process is going to be exactly the same. So these outlines are just going to serve as a base to work off of so that I can show you the real parts that really actually matter in creating realistic looking hair. If you want me to do a tutorial on how to draw different hairstyles, that's something that I could do, but let me know in the comments if that's something that you want to see. But anyway, to get started, I'm first going to show you how to draw the wrong way. And for this tutorial, I am using the same tools that I usually do: 2H, HB, and 2B mechanical pencils, a blending stump, and you will need some kind of eraser, either a kneaded eraser, those work really well, or if you have a mono eraser, these are really great too. They're clickable erasers and they have a pretty fine point, and that is actually really the thing that you'll need. So if you only have a kneaded eraser, this will work just fine because you can smash it down to a little point, which I will show you in a little bit why you need that. An eraser like this, a standard gum eraser, is not necessarily the best thing. You could always use this if you wanted, but you would have to cut some parts of it off, but I'll get to that. Okay, so to start with the wrong way. So if you were to think about how you would draw hair, if you don't know how to do it, or if nobody's shown you how to draw hair, then you would probably draw it the way that I'm going to show you now. So the hair is divided up into a few different parts here. This area right here is obviously the front part of our ponytail. So this is the part that sits straight on top of the head. And then this whole mass here is the ponytail itself. And the hairstyle, it's kind of divided up into a few different chunks here. And then the ponytail is just long and wavy. So let's go in and do it the wrong way, or the way that most people would do it if they didn't know any better. So the natural way that we would draw hair is just by drawing in a whole bunch of lines, right? Because hair is by nature just a bunch of lines. That's literally all it is just a whole mess of lines. So usually what people do is they draw a whole bunch of lines in the direction that the hair is growing on the head. So for this one, we're drawing a whole bunch of lines going backwards on the top of the head, and then these are going to swoop a little bit, and they're going to go around back toward where the ponytail begins. Alright, so we basically have the front part done. And, you know, even though it doesn't look the best, it still basically looks like, you know, it looks like hair. It's a whole bunch of lines, which is what hair is, but we could do better. So, ponytail, to do that, literally the exact same thing, just following the path from where it begins, or where it intersects here, or meets with the front part of the head, going all the way down. This is how just about everybody would draw hair naturally if they didn't know the proper way to do it. Alright, so I have this example done over here, and as you can see, it does look like hair, but it doesn't have a whole lot of volume or shape to it. It's pretty flat, and it's just made up of a whole bunch of flat lines that follow the original shapes that I had drawn to kind of map out the shape of the hair. But even though you can still tell that it's hair, it doesn't really look that realistic. It looks pretty flat. It looks like it's almost like made out of spaghetti or yarn or something like that. It doesn't look like hair. And the lines also look like they're a little bit too thick. Let's go over here and we'll start working on the correct way to draw hair, and you'll be able to see a pretty good difference, I think. So on this other side, what I'm going to do is break up this huge piece here into smaller chunks. So what I am doing here is I am going in and adding in a bunch of smaller chunks into this larger piece of hair, this ponytail. And the reason that I'm doing that is because that's kind of how hair typically operates naturally. It tends, multiple strands tend to clump together in smaller sections that make up the larger general shape of the hair. So what I'm going in here and doing is following the main shape of the ponytail. I'm adding in some smaller little strands, and what this is going to do is give it some depth and some dimension, because what I can do is add in some layering, and over on this other side here it's flat. It's all one thing, and it looks flat because it's all one thing. But over here what I can do is I can layer these strands on top of each other, these separate clumps of hair. I can put them on top of each other to create depth and an actual form and shape, and that is going to create a lot of realism in the hair. Alright, so even though I haven't added any shading quite yet at this point, you can already tell just by the outline that this is going to look a little bit more realistic and a little more natural than the one on the left. And just judging by the outlines of the individual sections of hair, it looks a little more realistic and believable, and it looks like there's more mass to the hair instead of just one flat two-dimensional shape. So now that I got the outline all complete and it looks about where I want it to look, I'm going to go in and start adding some value to the topmost part of the hair. And what I'm doing here is to create a sense of volume, I'm using negative drawing. So if we want to have a highlight in the middle of this top part of the hair, then that middle part is going to have to basically be blank and empty of value. So I'm going in on the sides and along the edges here of this little almond shape or football shaped part, and I am adding in some lines extending in toward the middle there, but I'm leaving the middle part itself empty. I'm leaving it blank, and I'm just creating some value around the outside. And what that's going to do is make it look like there's light that's hitting the hair, and also make it look a little bit more rounded. And now what I'm doing is I'm going in with a blending stump and I'm smoothing out some of the lines there, and I'm kind of distributing the values a little bit so to create a nice base. And I am going to go in now with another darker pencil. This is going to be a 2B, and just darkening the outside again, just the outside perimeter of the hair with some more lines to just keep the depth going. All right, so there you go. There is that little section of the hair done. And as you can already tell, it looks a little bit more realistic than the one on the left. You can see that there's highlight and shadow there. So now what I'm going to do is, using that same technique, I'm going to go ahead and carry that down a little bit to the rest of the sections that are below that top piece of the hair. And I'm going to do this in time lapse real quick just to kind of speed things up a little bit. Alright, so there is the whole front section of the hair completed. So now we're going to move on to the ponytail. And I am going to start to darken some of these individual sections of hair. And because the light is hitting straight on in this example, I'm first going to start outlining
these sections of hair, and those outline, the edges are going to be darker, and then the middle section is going to be lighter. So that's where our highlights are going to hit on the hair. So I'm just going to go around here and darken some of these little sections and start to divide them a little bit and separate them out from the larger chunk of hair. So what I'm doing here is basically the same technique as I used for the front part of the hair, or the part that was on top of the head, where I am just going back and forth and filling in a whole lot of value here around the edges, and then going back in with a blending stump and pulling some of the tones more toward the middle and just evening out the value a little bit. And then I'll go back in with another darker pencil and add in some more individual lines and kind of randomize the lines a little bit to make it look more like these chunks are made up of individual strands of hair. Now, here's where the eraser is going to come into play. And I like this little eraser here because you can get a fine point on it, and it lasts for a long time. It's a little clickable eraser. I think it's Mondo or something like that. But anyway, it's also fine pointed, which is great for detail work like this. So this is a perfect little eraser for pulling out some extra highlights and creating a little bit more contrast in the hair. Now, if you don't have one of those, you can also use a kneaded eraser. That would work just as well. You can use this to kind of form a tiny little point and basically mimic the job that this other eraser does. And that'll work very well too. The only thing is it just doesn't hold its shape for very long at all. You have to constantly keep re-kneading it to a fine point. So I'm going to go through here and just pull out some more highlights here in this center area of this chunk of hair. And then go back in with the pencil again real quick and add in a couple more lines. And you kind of go back and forth and do this layer by layer, adding some more pencil and then erasing a little bit and then adding a little bit more. And it's that layering on top of each other that helps to create a realistic illusion of hair. All right, so that is the basics of how to draw hair. Now I am going to go in time lapse and I'm going to do the rest of these little strands of hair using the exact same technique as I've been using this whole time, and I'll be right back with you when it's all done.
Alright guys, well that's basically it. As you can see, I just followed those same exact steps all the way through and just kept going layer by layer and adding in pencil, a whole bunch of lines, blending it all, erasing a little bit, adding some more lines after I've blended and erased, and just kind of worked back and forth and kept layering one on top of the other. And I also did add a black colored pencil into the mix too. I wouldn't normally do that, that's not a step that you have to do, but like I said earlier, this light that I have, it really washes out the pencil, so, or the graphite. Since it's not totally black, it kind of overcasts everything and makes it all just look a lighter gray. So the black colored pencil kind of brings out a little bit more definition, but that is not a step that you have to take. But anyway, that's the basics on how to draw realistic hair. And can you tell the difference now that they're side by side? There's definitely more volume over here, and even though these two hairstyles have the same basic shape and they look similar in shape, you can tell that this one here, it looks much more thick and it looks like it actually has depth to it because of all of these little pieces that make up the larger piece here. And there's shading in between all of these small pieces. So that just creates a little bit more volume and visual interest, and it just makes it look more believable and natural. So that is basically it. I hope you got some use out of this and maybe learn some new techniques here the next time you try to go draw your own hair. This, like I said, this tutorial, or this technique anyway, to drawing hair can be adapted to any hairstyle. I chose this particular hairstyle because I was able to show you how it looks with both semi-straight areas of hair and then more curly or wavy like what's over here. So but literally the exact same process, whether it's short hair, long hair, whatever it is, it's the same thing. But anyway, there you have it. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any other things that you've been having some trouble with drawing, let me know. Or if you have any ideas of any more tutorials or any other videos that you want to see up on this channel, also let me know. I am going to call it a day. Once again, I hope you enjoyed watching this. Thanks so much for watching, whether you're a subscriber or you just happen to stumble on this out of the blue. Either way, glad to have you. If you haven't yet already, go ahead and subscribe if you feel like it. I guess if you don't feel like it, that's cool too. It's totally up to you. And as usual, I hope to see you in the next one.